say, and fine, let's say that Jerry Jones was just there as a spectator. Let's just say that. It doesn't make it any better. Like, that's the thing. I don't understand how it makes it any better. It's not a better optic either way. You know what I mean? It's actually pretty symbolic of what society is, right? White people will stand by and watch black people go through hell and say nothing and go about life like it's normal. That's what this country is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look at me.
Bench Mob, they're speaking the facts that you wanna hear. They rep a jersey, the vision is clear. Diamonds glisten like a chandelier. You know what I'm here for, like Marshawn Lynch. At clutch time, we do not flinch. Real brothers, we do not switch. Hit home runs with the right pitch. Who run the city? What to do when they're hating on you? I feel like Kobe 2010. Taking an L, all I need is a win. Business is business, you know how they go. You playing the seats, now it's on the grow. Tuning now, gotta be in the know. Showtime, bitch, my about to blow.
I ain't seen from now. Bowles was really, I did not tell you.
Bench Mob Podcast. What's up, bro?
Yeah, welcome back. Welcome back to another episode, Bench Mob Ent, episode 220. Full squad here tonight. CVO is in the building. How you doing tonight?
Good, man. Bengals hitting the hot streak right now, right at the right time.
Greg, Mr. Hot Takes, debate your mother since man. How you living?
I'm good, bro. I'm ready. I'm about business tonight. I'm good. Let's go.
My smooth operator Davenport. How you living tonight?
I'm doing good. It's the Mike White show. That's what it is.
Speaking of, man, so Sunday, looking at Sunday, you come back looking at, it was some great quarterback play, with some subpar quarterback play, with some booty quarterback play. And you looking forward to future quarterback play with some of these draft prospects. Starting off, perfect transition, Mike White, 22 of 28, 315, 3 touchdowns, no interception, 91.2 QBR. How much was Mike White's successful game because of Mike White, or was it more so of the terrible defense that they played against in the Bears?
I mean, I feel like it was a mix. It was a mix of both. Like, the Bears defense is pretty bad, and they lost a couple guys in the game too. That, Eddie Jackson's not a slouch. So when he got hurt, that kind of opened things up even more. But it was just good to see after seeing what we've seen for the last month and a half with Zach Wilson, because honestly, this is the first quarterback that's played this well since Mike White last year. Like, Joe Flacco, those first few games, granted, we won against Cleveland. It wasn't that good. It wasn't good QB play. He threw a lot of passes, so the numbers are skewed. But Mike White was efficient. He made the throws. He didn't, kill you with deep balls. But that's the thing. You don't have to in this game. If they're giving you the short throws, take it. So he's letting the weapons do the work. Like CJ Uzama, we signed him in the offseason, and I feel like this is the first time I've actually seen him catch passes this year. It's been a waste of a signing because we don't use him. So it was cool. It was a wet game, and I'm just frustrated I didn't start him in fantasy. I probably would have won my matchup by now, but it's all good. As long as we're winning in real life, that's all I'm worried about.
That's facts.
When I look at it, for me, Mike White, he played better this one game than we've seen Zach Wilson play his entire career as a New York Jet. He has never looked like how Mike White looked. And when you look at it, for me, with Mike White, obviously he's probably not the long-term answer, but he got players like you mentioned Uzama, but I'm looking at Elijah Moore. That joker looked happy. He was blocking. He looked engaged, and he wasn't getting that with Zach Wilson. And I think that's the thing that you got to look at big picture. I think Zach Wilson literally played his last game as a Jet. There's no way that y'all could bring him back when you have Elijah Moore talking about he felt like he was in jail with Zach Wilson 2-3 lockers down. When you got players talking like that, Nah, he's lost a lot. Nobody rocking with Zach Wilson like that in the locker room, and that's your quarterback. It's the same type of thing that happened with Geno Smith. Once that fight thing happened, it's like, we know you could play, but nah, you don't got the respect in the locker room. So Zach, I think Zach done up.
Elijah Moore is so disrespectful, bro. There's no reason to pile onto his grave, bro. He gonna post a picture of him throwing the football the other day.
That's crazy.
Right? When all the rumors were swirling around Zach Wilson getting benched, he put the picture up of him throwing the football. He's not right, bro. He's not right. Like that's wrong, bro. You don't do that. Mike White made like Salah said, Mike White made easy look easy. That's the you just need that. And with a team that good, just get the ball to your receivers. Let them get yards at the catch. Garrett Wilson's really, really good. Really, really good. They hit on that one. They hit on Sauce and him. Is that the same draft too? I think that was. That's ridiculous. So they're set up. They're really set up nicely. I think they probably still go the route of a free agent quarterback down the line. But let's see how the real test is next weekend and the weekend after. Vikings, Bills. Can you win one of those games? You win one of those games, Zach Wilson's done as a Jet. That's the way I see it. If you lose both the games, then you can have a conversation about reinserting Zach Wilson down the line. You win both of them, there's no way he's coming back. In fact, I pack his bags tomorrow. Miles will tend to pick up a company to go pack up his stuff, send him back to Utah where he came from. If Mike White wins one of those games, but if he loses both, you'll have a conversation about Zach again. You start hearing about it again. It's kind of the way I see it.
Hopefully this humbles Zach Wilson though, because the way he looked on the sideline, they didn't even have that man in game uniform. They had him suited up in sweatpants, and hey, at the end of the day, is he still a captain? What happens to your captain status when you get benched?
Was he a captain before?
Sure. He's one of 3 captains on the team. Mm-hmm. So what happens then?
Yeah.
Looking back on this, right? Looking at that draft, if we come to this conclusion that Zach actually isn't the answer, number 2 overall pick, right? You guys absolutely hit with Sauce, absolutely hit with Garrett Wilson. Looking back at that draft, y'all still had on the board, because y'all had number 2, you had people like Jamar, Jalen Waddle, J.C. Horn, Patrick Surtain, Devontae Smith, Micah Parsons. As a Jets fan, looking back at it, do you wish you drafted elsewhere to shore up the rest of the team instead of Zach Wilson?
I mean, it's easy to go back and look at all the players drafted after him and be like, oh, I'd take Micah Parsons in a heartbeat, because that would help our defense immensely. But like the main thing, if you don't have a quarterback, your team is not going to do anything. Like, look at the Texans. They're in purgatory because they're trotting out Kyle Allen and Davis Mills. So they're next up to draft a quarterback. Even if they don't want to, even if there's better prospects on the board, you can't move forward as an organization if you don't have that quarterback lined up. Because
right.
I mean, look at the Bengals. Like when Joe Burrow got hurt. No, I'm saying, you're not gonna let me finish?
Go ahead, Tyler.
Hey, look at Joe Burrow's rookie season. Like, he gets hurt. Who was out there? Brandon Allen or somebody. Yeah. They weren't winning. They weren't successful until Joe Burrow came back and he was balling. So it's like, once you know you have that quarterback, then you can, look at other options. But until you got that QB, that's the thing you got to really focus in on.
Looking at
you 101 though.
Looking at that conversation though, right? When you talk about if you have the opportunity for a top 3 pick and it's a quarterback on the board, do you consider though trading that pick to get maybe later in that first round to get a haul back, so you put your quarterback in position to win them? So if you draft, for example, look at some of the quarterbacks of the past, like last year with Trevor Lawrence, that team really wasn't surrounding him that was good to be successful. Even right now, his weapons aren't really that good to be successful. Do you consider it then? Like, hey, do we want to draft Trevor Lawrence? Do we want to draft any of these prospects coming up for the Texans? You want to draft a quarterback, and the rest of the team, who's he throwing to? Who's blocking for him? Is that something that you think you consider? Like Joe Burrow's first year, he gets injured because the blocking was abysmal, but it was such a great talent you couldn't pass up on him. Do you consider in that situation like, hey, we're not even in a position to put a quarterback to succeed because the rest of the team is just so terrible around him.
I mean, I think QB is the most important. Like they always say, it's the most important job in sports because if you don't have your quarterback, you're not going to be successful. Like there's so many teams out there that once they got that quarterback, you just build, you fill in pieces around that. You don't actually have to, nitpick on this guy. This quarterback might not be as good as, the top defensive tackle or top O tackle coming out, but like who we're going to put out there, a free agent who nobody wants. And then we're going to be back in this situation again next year when that's the thing. If the QB, you got to look at the QB classes each year. Like if it's not that good, then maybe you do wait another year and, bring in a stopgap like Tyrod Taylor or some of these other guys. But if you're in a position to take like a Bryce Young or maybe next year like a Caleb Williams, you can't pass up on that. Like there's been times where teams did pass up on that. Like the Giants passed on Herbert, could have taken him, but they had taken Daniel Jones a couple years before. But then with the Cardinals, they took who's that guy who's not in the league anymore? Josh Rosen. Took him and immediately knew that he wasn't the guy. And they were right in that spot again to take a quarterback. They didn't think twice. So it's until you get that number one pick, you get that quarterback, you keep going until you get it.
I agree with you though. It all depends on the quarterback class. We look at the number one overall picks in the history of the NFL. You got possibly 3-4 Hall of Famers. You're talking about Aikman, Elway, Peyton, Eli. Andrew Luck probably would have been known that way, but he retired early. Joe Burrow, career still early, but we know he's 1-1. He's their guy. Kyler Murray, the jury's still out on him. Baker Mayfield, trash. Jared Goff, trash. Jameis Winston, trash. Cam Newton, he's at home with us. Sam Bradford. Testaverde played a little bit for the Jets. Like Drew Bledsoe lost his job. Mike Vick, maybe something if he didn't want to have dogs fighting. So I think you got to be very quarterback class does matter. But I digress. One quarterback that I just mentioned that was a number one overall pick that I personally really like how he's been playing, and I think this just shows his maturation, is Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, 22 for 37, 270, 1 touchdown. The Bengals are 7-4 now. One stat that I do want to point out, which to me tells me that Joe Burrow is taking what the defense gives him. This year, he is targeting running backs 5% more than he targeted last year. So Joe Burrow isn't trying to get the home run play every single time. He's going to get the check down. And P. Ryan has been doing a good job. Joe Mixon's going to come back next week. He's doing a better job of, I'm just getting these completions. Last year, Chris can attest, the Bengals was a lot of negative plays. All right, let's go get a 20-yarder. Let's go get a 30-yarder. This year, I think they lead the league in not having like negative plays that they have to get out of. This year is really, if we only get 5 yards on this, we're getting 5 yards. Let's get 10. Let's get 3. And I think that shows the maturation of Joe Burrow, because we see quarterbacks in the league that Zach Wilson, we just need to check down, bro. Just give me 8 yards. Just give me 5 yards. We don't need that. So Joe Burrow, can they win the division? Because the Ravens do look shaky.
Hell yeah, we can win the division. And to your point, like with everything that you just said, yes, it's part of the maturation process too. But like one thing that has been successful in Joe Burrow doing that is they're not putting themselves in third and long situations, right? When you throw that check down route or you throw it to Samaje Perine, going into the flat when the defense is sitting back playing over the top because they're afraid of T. Higgins beating them deep. That's a part of the run game now, right? You throw that swing route, let them pick up, 8-9 yards on the ground, and now you're in 2nd and 1. Now you're in 3rd and 2 situation. So that's one part of it. But the line's also been playing great these past 4 weeks. Joe Burrow has time in the pocket. He's not looking frazzled at all. And the one thing that I also think is part of the maturation process for him, instead of like forcing it and throwing the long balls, he's using his legs a lot more. He had over 29 yards last game. And you think about guys like Lamar Jackson, and you don't think 29 yards is a lot, but like for a quarterback that's not a traditional runner and sits in the pocket and throws the football, like he knows when to tuck it and run it and just escape and get out of the pocket rather than sit there and try to make something happen like he did a ton of times last year, taking way too many hits. Yo, the Bengals are 7-2 since starting off 0-2 this year, right? They got things clicking right now, and they won 3 or 4 without Jamar Chase. It ain't a Jamar Chase show. Jamar Chase is great to have. He opens up so much for you, but Joe Burrow's smart enough to know who to get the ball to. You see him getting the ball to his tight end, Hayden Hurst. The run game has been looking great these past few weeks, so I'm excited to see where this team goes. And, you know, beating the Titans was a great step in that direction in order to get some confidence. Look, we beat them the past 4 times we played them, so it wasn't a gimme going into that game because, you know, Derrick Henry's that guy. But, hey, Bengals held them 17 carries, 31 yards. Big games, Bengals show up. And now we got the Chiefs, who we beat twice last year. Let's see what happens.
Greg, I want your take, because I know you have Lamar Jackson's number directly and you be texting him. What's your concern level for the Ravens? Because they lose yet again, another 4-quarter lead. They were up 9 with 5 minutes left and let Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars come back and had Jacksonville. They are feeling great about their quarterback, because the way Trevor Lawrence came back, big time throws. They lose a 4-quarter lead yet again. And in respect to Lamar, the man is throwing to Patrick Ricard. Patrick Ricard has 13 targets, which is the most for anybody that's 300 pounds or more. So throw that out there.
I mean, you just kind of hit the nail on the head. That's what it is with that team. That team has failed him miserably. That team has failed him miserably. I mean, you're talking about, you know, a last-ditch effort to throw the ball, you know, 60 yards at the end of that game to Deshaun Jackson and make it interesting to get that score to put them ahead before they gave it up anyways, right? At the end of the game, he has no one to throw the ball to. And they dropped about 3 touchdown passes, Mark Andrews included, who's shorthanded as anybody, dropped one in the back of the end zone. He would have had like 3 or 4 touchdowns in that game if they had just caught the balls that were thrown to him. So, I mean, it's tough. It's a tough situation over there because they didn't build around him the way they should have in the very beginning. And here we are, right? I mean, you're talking about a team that lacks offensive firepower just in totality. They don't have it. So, you know, that's why we are where we are right now. And look, I mean, I think this is more interesting because they're 7-4 in spite of all that, because he's that great, because Lamar is that great. It's not a question of his greatness, obviously, but you know, you have to start to think about how this all factors into contract negotiations, because on his side, it's like, yo, do you even want to come back? Like, you know, like money aside, do you want to come back? They haven't shown you that they're willing to build around you and do the things they need to do, right? Why are they not in the Odell Beckham sweepstakes? It doesn't make any sense. That team should be the first in line, right? They should be making pitches. It shouldn't be Dallas flirting with him publicly. It should be Lamar and the Ravens. It should be everybody in the Ravens front office flirting with him publicly, and that's not happening. They haven't shown the dedication to building around Lamar Jackson. That's been the problem, and that's where we are. And again, this could come back to bite them when it comes down to sitting down at that negotiation table. We could see him get traded just because of this alone. Forget the money. If they could come up with the money, but because he deserves it, he deserves every penny. But will that happen? Will he want to stick? That's the real question.
Yeah, I think it's weird to me because it's like you look at the targets. Half of the targets went to DeMarcus Robinson, Patrick Ricard, and somebody else that was a fourth option as a wide receiver last season. It makes no sense to me. You see where other teams are like, hey, unless you are the Chiefs, you try to get the ball to your main guys, your playmakers. Right now, his only playmaker is Mark Andrews. Granted, he be dropping a rock sometimes. Mark Andrews should be getting 15, 16 targets a game. You should not be, like at the end of the game, I'm sure you watched the game in the fourth quarter, they threw a screen to Patrick Ricard, the fullback. Not Mark Andrews. Let Mark Andrews get a screen and try to make something happen. Patrick Ricard, what is he making happen on the screen? Respectfully, he's a fullback that he's not like that. He's great for blocking purposes, but you're sending Drewski out on a screen. And it's like, hey, go make something happen.
It's tough. It's tough.
Schematically, that team is from a foundational standpoint, that team is screwed. They've done a terrible job offensively building around their quarterback. And there's no excuse for that. You didn't take advantage of the 4-year window to win a championship. You didn't do it. So here we are. I mean, with the only wide receiver I remember them really adding of notice is Bateman. They drafted him. I mean, it's been really sad to see how this whole thing is kind of planned out for them. But I think it can really bite them in the butt come negotiation time for real. Like it's a real problem they have there. But I'm not counting them out. If they can shore some things up, they can still make a run in the playoffs. It's just you're very limited in what you can do. You're very limited in what you can do offensively in the pass game, and it's a shame because he's not talked about nearly enough as one of those best quarterbacks in the league, and he's top. I was telling Chris the other day, he's top 3, top 4. That's where he's at. Like normally, you know what I mean? He's the best quarterback and best running back in the league when things are going right, when things are humming.
You almost have to question like how serious they are about winning because you ship Marquise Brown off, and you never backfilled him. You never brought Lamar Jackson another weapon. You thought Deshaun Jackson was the answer for that? Like, come on, man. Like they're not serious in their run game. Like they're relying on J.K. Dobbins, who got injured, and now they're putting too much pressure on. Is that me?
You good? You good?
No, I don't hear anything.
Yeah, you good?
Yeah, you good.
He's bugging on his side. That's why.
Y'all don't hear that music? My fault.
I hear something now. You're saying it. Now you're saying I hear something faint. But
yeah, my fault. Yeah, my music on my computer was blasting. My fault.
To that old country road.
Nah, I thought Tony's computer was acting up again. Get out of here. It was one of those ads. But no, what I was saying was that they rely too heavily on Lamar Jackson to be the run game. You can't have him rush 14 times. Yeah, he gets 89 yards, but there's no balance within that offense, especially when you have no weapons on the outside. Duvernay has been all right at times this year, but at the same time, like you really got to question how serious they are about winning because they've been in the red zone. The past 9 times they've been in the red zone, they've only scored 3 times. And again, part of that has been drops, but at the same time, like, you get in the red zone and you got Lamar Jackson on your team, you got to get in. You got to get in.
On the flip side, we talked about some good quarterback play. Bad quarterback play from Sunday. Mr. DangeRUSS himself, Russell Wilson, 19 for 35, 142, 1 TD with a 29.1 QBR. They said that the yelling situation wasn't no problem. It was just motivation to try to play better and make sure that the offense did their part. Broncos are 3-8.
It's bad.
It's bad. I'm literally at lost of words with the Russell Wilson situation.
All day they've been talking about how do you get out of this contract. There's no way. They're suckered into it. Like the cap hit is astronomical if they cut him, and you can't. You just got to try to make it work, which I think the first domino that's going to fall is that Hackett's going to get fired. I mean, that's a given at this point. You got the quarterback, so you're not going to blame the $250 million man. You're going to chop the first-year head coach who, he hasn't been calling a good game plan. So we'll see. I don't like this team at all. The chemistry's gone. Coach has kind of lost the locker room because now guys are turning on each other. It's been this way though, because you've seen where KJ Hamler throws his hands up when Russ overthrows him, and Jerry Jeudy and them on the sideline talking, and now you got a guy stepping in your face. Like, you the highest paid guy, and this guy was in the AFL a couple years ago. Like, he was playing in arenas, and he's stepping to you, yelling in your face like, get it together. So something's got to give. I don't know if Russ is going to get it going this year. I don't know. Maybe if they fire him now, that possibly could.
Hold on.
But they're going to wait till the end of the year.
You don't pay someone $250 million a year to blame the head coach on why the offense is inept and can't do anything, or you're one of the worst offenses in football. I don't understand that part. When I pay someone $250 million a year, I don't care who's coaching. I could coach. You got to play above the X's and O's. That's what you're paid
definitely
for.
getting fired.
All right, whatever. All right. I'll have no time for rebuttals. Like I said, I'm all about my business today. $250 million for a guy who can't play above the X's and O's. There's no excuse for that. That's all I'm gonna say. And we can blame. And Hackett sucks. I'm with you on that. But he's not the reason why Russell Wilson looks horrible. Russell Wilson is the reason why Russell Wilson looks horrible. Russell Wilson has been focused on all the wrong things for the longest time now. And we're not going to blame anybody. Guy ain't going to partake in those games. But what I will say is, he been talking about some less ride. He been dripped down Balenciaga before the guy was showing up in Wilson tracksuits games and all that stuff. A guy from, where was he from? Bumble, wherever. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not him. He's not. It's an act. It's a facade. The team is over it. The guy yelling at him, the AFL guy, who just is happy to be here, right? Who should be, is screaming at you because he's tired of your bullshit. He's tired of it. Like, he's tired of it. You know what I mean? It's old. It's old. All of it is old. The facade, everything. Before the game, turning around in circles, your eyes closed. It's old. Finding the nearest camera. It's old. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's whack, bro. It's whack. Like, it's all of it. Russell Wilson is whack. Like, that's a word that people don't use anymore. He's whack. Like, it's so he tries so hard. He tries so hard, and that's the problem. I think even if he's playing bad, but you erase all the other nonsense that comes with them, that I'm talking about, the try-hardism, all of it. Yo, I'm sure it's not the same. I'm sure Melvin Gordon doesn't want to kill him, want to strangle him on the sideline before he got cut. I'm sure this guy doesn't want to. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot. So, nah, man. What we ain't gonna do is give this guy a pass and talk about Hackett. Yeah, Hackett's a fool. Hackett should go be on Breaking Bad or something like that. But at the end of the day, this guy, Russell Wilson, he's a problem. Like, it's a lot more than with football. It's a lot less to do with football than people make it out to be. He has a lot of other things going on that make him tough to be a teammate to and tough to root for, honestly.
I don't think he's getting a pass though. I'm talking
about from you. I know you're not getting a pass.
Two things can be right at the same time. The coach needs to go, and Russ needs to, get his shit together.
All right, fair enough. Yeah. Fair enough.
I think, to your point too, is just how he carries himself, because Taylor Heineke isn't the best quarterback, but because he's liked in the locker room, he's a team player, he motivates them. The Commanders be right behind Taylor. Kirk Cousins is the best quarterback. He makes his mistakes here and there, but they throwing chains on him. It's right. Russ. It's Russ. Like, most teams would be like, hey, you're going to have some bad games. You might be having a bad year. You might be struggling. It's him and his personality. Kirk didn't play that well on Thanksgiving. They still was showing man's love. Justin Jefferson might have broke the record. He might be having 2,000 yards every season if he didn't have Kirk Cousins. He'd still be showing Kirk Cousins love. It's Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
Russ. It's literally just Russ. Like, Russ really got to look in the mirror, which I don't think he's doing. But like you said, he'd be focused on everything else. I just found out today he got a podcast now.
Of course he does. Of course he does.
They got no choice but to make it work with Russ. They give up 5 picks for him, and they're paying him entirely way too much. You got to figure out a way to get him playing like his old self.
Hey, you've got to dumb down the playbook. That's what I think. I think he has too much freedom, in my opinion. That's why I think he dumb down the playbook, run the ball more, easier throws, gimme throws. That's where we're at. You got to baby him.
Freedom in a playbook goes to the top 3, top 5 quarterback. And he's not
that. Which is insane. We're talking about babying a Super Bowl winning quarterback. That's insane.
I'm glad you said that, Chris. I'm glad, because the thing that people forget is that what made Russell Wilson special was the fact that he played within a structure where they ran the ball a ton with Marshawn Lynch. It was all based on the run game, and everything happened off the run game. A lot of play action, easy reads, and on top, half-field reads, right? He developed a deep ball later, but the magic in him was, I'm going to make this guy miss. I'm going to make this guy miss. Then I'm going to get 15 yards. I'm going to scramble. I'm going to run around like Kyle Murray. Or as I'm scrambling, I'm going to find Tyler Lockett because the coverage breaks down. I've been dancing for so long, they can't cover no more. That's gone. That's gone. The physical ability. What happened with Russell Wilson, too, is you watch him, man, he's starting to get a little wider. wider and wider every year. He put on a little weight. He's compact. He's a real compact dude. You know what I'm saying? So now he's putting on weight. He's getting a little pudgier. He gets with Sierra. He's eating good. You know, he wakes up in the morning, got her chef making him breakfast. He's adding that weight to his frame. The magic was in his athletic ability. Don't do the magic was this nigga. This nigga ain't shit. The magic was in his. I'm gonna tell Ariana on you, bro. The magic. I'm gonna tell Ariana on you, bro. The magic was great. The magic he had was great. He threw the whole show off, bro.
I ain't even say nothing.
Yo, nah, you gotta send a picture to the chat so Miles can see, because it's gonna make complete sense when he see it.
He's wrong, bro.
Yo, concern level. At what concern level, a scale of 1 to 10? 10 being like, hey, hit the panic button, we have a problem. 1, I'm not so worried about them. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 5 and 6, they lose to the Browns. Bad clock management. Todd Bowles not looking good. Tom Brady not looking good. On a scale of 1 to 10, how concerned are you about the Bucs with the Falcons 1 game behind them also, by the way?
I'm not concerned about them winning the division, but I'm more concerned about what are they going to do in the playoffs? Because, I mean, Tom Brady is he's not washed, but he's not making all the throws that I'm used to him making. So
he's mid. Tom Brady's mid.
Now he is.
He sucks. If you call a spade a spade,
yeah.
He don't belong in the field. He sucks. Tom Brady sucks. That's where we're at now. And it's okay. I think people should enjoy watching him suck. It wasn't fun watching him be good. I didn't enjoy it. I sure as hell didn't enjoy it. He sucks. And I enjoy it. I revel in it. Of course, you know, the irony is that he sucks when the black head coach takes over, though. That's what pisses me off. You suck now that the black guy takes over. You couldn't suck with a white guy running the organization, being the head coach. You couldn't suck with Arians. You suck when my man Todd Bowles takes over. That's wrong, man. Like, you see, but he's so anti-black. That's what he does. That's all I'm gonna say. He sucks.
Hey, I'd say this too, though. Miles tried to tell every Tampa Bay fan Todd Bowles wasn't gonna be it. He tried to warn y'all on the show.
No.
And Tom did not look good. But Todd Bowles, terrible clock management. You have Tom Brady. I get it. It's not Tom Brady that we know, that we so used to, and that everybody outside of Greg loves. You played to go into overtime. They weren't even playing to win with Tom Brady. Todd, you gotta wear that too. Todd Bowles, you gotta wear that. It's not looking good for Todd Bowles. I know that's Bruce Arians' boy, and Bruce was trying to do the right thing and putting a black man as a coach. But Todd might have to go back to being a defensive coordinator and assistant. Mm-hmm. He not built to be a head coach.
I think this just shows that Bruce he had a hand in that offense more than people give him credit for, honestly. Because since he's been gone, the offense has been shaky. He was there last year. You know, the offensive coordinator always gets the credit, but kind of like Andy Reid, you got to give Bruce Arians his credit too. Like he's been around this game and he's coached up quarterbacks and he's made them look good. Once he leaves, now Tom Brady's struggling. I think it's a mix of age and, you know, the play calling, and he's missing, you know, that more offensive minded head coach. Like Todd Bowles is more tapped in on defense. So, I mean, Leftwich, he can only do so much.
Yeah, but don't you think from Tom Brady's standpoint, right? You won however many Super Bowls now, six Super Bowls. Don't you think you've seen it all from an offensive standpoint, and you can kind of like, you know, what's gonna get the team going, right? You think he has the status to like veto whatever Leftwich is calling? Because I think he does.
Hey, I think he should have called them timeouts himself. Once he looked over to the sideline and saw,
right,
I wasn't calling the timeouts. Hey, you not gonna do your job, Todd? All right, time out.
Like, it's Tom Brady, ain't it? Bowles don't even know how to speak to the media. He's one tone, no emotion. He not stepping to Tom Brady. I'm telling you that.
Hey, we saw what he did in New York. He was terrible with the media in New York, and they was like, "Oh, it's a big market. New York is tough." No, Todd ain't good. Period.
Church
Todd in the offseason got to take a public speaking class. He's bad. It's bad.
That's
It
just
don't matter
who he
what
is.
media he in.
Yeah, that's just who he is. He's not gonna give you, fun sound bites. He just does his job.
It
Let
ain't
him
even gotta be a
let him
fun
spend a
sound
week
bite.
with Greg.
He don't be looking mad or sad when they lose.
What he say?
Let him spend a week with Greg. He'll be calling people black ass.
I would be great with the media. I would be great with the media, bro. A band should be incredible.
Scale of 1 to 10, how concerned are we for the 4-8 Cardinals on a 2-game losing streak?
10.
It's over. I mean,
It's over.
they can fire the coach, but I think it's an organizational problem. You have your organization puts out an addendum in the contract to embarrass him, like for no other reason than to embarrass him about his time spent playing video games as opposed to watching film. And then you've got him beefing with the coach who proclaimed his love for him when he got the job and had been recruiting him since he'd been in Texas, like back when he was in high school, as the greatest high school quarterback in Texas history, arguably, and here we are now. So it's bad. I mean, I always say changing the coach would make a big difference, and it will. I mean, for a lot of it can, but because Kyler Murray is still very talented, and we know how good he can be. We've seen it. It's not like we haven't seen it. We haven't seen him be successful in the league. We've seen that. He's a Pro Bowl guy, so we know that's there. But is the marriage, just dead? Like that's the real question between those two, between Kyler Murray and the Cardinals. That's the real question at play here. I personally, I think it could be. And if it is, I think you could be looking at Kyler Murray being on the market soon, which is crazy to say because guys that good don't get traded. And I know he hasn't played well, but he is a really good player, really talented player. It's been a crappy situation, and in large part because of his play. He's been bad this year, but I think a lot of things go into it, and I think a general unhappiness with the situation and culture in Arizona is leading to it. We'll get a firsthand look at that in the Hard Knocks. See how hungry I am?
On to Capper facts. Aaron Rodgers got injured, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions before his injury. Jordan Love comes in 6 for 9, 113 yards, 1 TD. Capper facts is A-Rod's time in Green Bay winding up.
I'd say facts. I mean, I feel like it's reached that point. Like Jordan Love's been here for 3 years now, and I mean, he looked good in that time that he was out there, albeit like it was a quarter and a half. So it's not like he was doing this the whole game against that Eagles all defense, and they didn't have time to prepare for him. So, but like, you got to see what you have. This was the same thing that happened with Rodgers and Favre. He sat out for like 2-3 years, and then something happened, and you gotta move on. I think it's best for both parties, to just move on. Like Rodgers, he needs a change of scenery. Packers, they need somebody, who's not so hell-bent on winning right now with the youth that they have on this team. Because let's be frank, they've made it to the NFC Championship the last 2 years, or before last year, 2 years in a row, and nothing came out of it. Then they got rid of the weapons. So clearly there's a disconnect. Like you get rid of Devontae Adams, you're not showing me you really want to win. You're showing me that we're thinking about maybe moving on. But then, he wins 2 MVPs. So how do you move on from a guy who just, showed he's still at the top of his game? So there was a disconnect there. And now you're kind of seeing that it's falling apart. So I think they could use this time. He's got that thumb injury. Now he's got a rib injury. Maybe you sit him. Maybe you see what you got in Jordan Love one more time to just confirm some things. Because I think they already know that they want to move forward with Jordan Love, but now you got to see it in some game action now.
Yeah, I say the last 5 games, put the rock in Jordan Love's hand, especially since y'all got to decide this offseason if they're going to give him the 5th-year option. Let him play. See what you got. Are we gonna give him a 5th-year option? If it sucks, hey, you have Aaron Rodgers to fall back on. Look at it again next season. But A-Rod don't look good. And I would warn teams that want to trade for A-Rod. Look what happened with Russ. Russ, before this season, did not look good at the end of the season in Seattle, which definitely rolled over into Denver. A-Rod has not looked like himself this season. Don't trade for A-Rod and expect it's going to be back 40 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. Hey, I say be patient. Maybe wait for the draft, but don't trade for A-Rod. Russell Wilson is a pure example of why you should not do that. Capper facts. Sean Payton has called Caleb Williams a generational talent. Greg has said one of the best prospects since Andrew Luck. Is this cap or facts?
Let Chris hop in there because he called me drunk. Since I said it. I said he's the best prospect since Andrew Luck. You're on mute, by the way.
I ain't call you drunk. I asked if you was drinking. There's a difference. You was a little tipsy. You was a little tipsy because I think.
Off what? Apple juice?
I don't. Yeah, we know.
Shirley Temple.
We know you like your Shirley's. I think Tone. I think, correct me if I'm wrong. Greg said he was the best since Andrew Luck. Is that correct, Greg?
I actually, yes, right. Yeah, let's go with that.
All I'm saying is there's a conversation to be had on if he is the best since Andrew Luck. There's other guys that could easily be mentioned. When you talk about Caleb Williams, look, I said it last year. He's the Heisman favorite this year. He's probably going to win the Heisman. Has USC off to 11-1 start. He's playing great. The dude has a 65% completion rate. He's going on a tear right now with 34 TDs. Like he's the complete package. He's been with Lincoln Riley. He knows the system. You know, he has talent around him too. The only thing I'm saying is that if you look at his pass attempts, right, compared to some of these other quarterbacks' pass attempts, the numbers are skewed there. The numbers are skewed there because Caleb Williams, where he's at right now, he's thrown 407 pass attempts this year so far, while other quarterbacks like Bryce Young, they're still in the early 300s, mid 300s. So they are passing. Caleb Williams airing out of that ball. They're relying on him to throw the football, right? So the numbers are skewed there because, a few comparisons here. Justin Fields, right? Justin Fields was him too. Justin Fields was him at Ohio State. Led them to 13-1, 9-0 in the conference, 67% completion rate, and 41 touchdowns and 3 interceptions that whole year, right? But if you want to talk about, the numbers and where they're at, Justin Fields threw 41 touchdowns on 354 attempts, right? 41 touchdowns on 354 attempts. Think about that. And Caleb Williams mid-season is already at 407 attempts and only 34 touchdowns, right? So their numbers are skewed there. And that's what I'm saying. Like, people got to slow the brakes. I think Caleb Williams is a great player. I think he's going to be a great player. But I'm going Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields was a better quarterback in college just because he was highly efficient with the pass attempts and the plays that he had. And he's highly accurate too.
Nah, I ain't rocking with that. I can't do that. I can't do it. Hey, you brought up Justin Fields. I thought this was interesting because I was watching CJ Stroud this weekend, and I always was trying to understand because I admittedly am not the biggest college football fan because it just is lower quality football. It's just not great to watch. I don't know how people do it, but I watch it for the quarterbacks. And when I looked at CJ Stroud this weekend and saw him get blasted by Michigan, I'm like, I'm watching. I'm like, all right, well. The knock on Ohio State quarterbacks coming out of college is more that they say in the Big Ten, you get a lot of wide open reads. Really, the trench plays better than the cornerback play. The cornerback play is not that great. Guys are wide open. And at Ohio State, you're throwing to one. You're throwing to guys like Marvin Harrison Jr., Jackson Nigma, whatever his name is. You're throwing to guys like that. And they're wide open, beating these no-name cornerbacks at Northwestern, beating these no-name quarterbacks at Rutgers, right? Like, that's what we're talking about. The quality of play is so much lower in that Big Ten. So I'm watching CJ Stroud. He's hitting things when they're open. He's accurate. He certainly is. But I can see him falling in the draft a little bit. I can understand why. Because when things get critical in that pocket, when he has to make something happen, it gets ugly. It gets real ugly because things are perfect over there. It's a well-scripted machine over there in Ohio State. So for me, for my money, Caleb Williams going into USC, a team that was not relevant beforehand. They were, let's be real, okay? That franchise, that program was dead before my man Lincoln Riley took the job, and then they got Addison over from Pitt to come over. He's going to be a top pick and a top first round pick in the draft, so that helps him. Caleb Williams, and the O-line's playing good football, but things break down. Things break down in Caleb Williams' face, and he's making things happen off script. He's making throws on the field. He's running to his left full speed, throwing across his body. The ball's going 90 miles an hour out of his hands. He has physical traits that I haven't seen a quarterback have since Pat Mahomes. Pat Mahomes, it looks like Pat Mahomes. It looks like him. It feels like that. I guess when I watch Pat Mahomes, no matter how bad the play is, I feel he's going to make something happen. That's the kind of magic that Caleb Williams has. So for me, from a talent perspective, I haven't seen anybody that good in a very, very, very long time. Trevor Lawrence, I don't think Trevor Lawrence was this good. I really don't. The ability to create something out of nothing that Caleb Williams has, just something out of nothing ability. Like what he does is uncanny. And then when he's on script, he makes the easy look easy. He hits you right in the numbers. You're gonna be good on script too. Like he can do it so many different ways and hurt you so many different ways. It's impossible to game plan for him, which is why I think he's the best quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck, because of all those reasons. You know what I mean? USC is not even, they're the only one recruiting class in. They're not even that far away from being bad a year ago. And the only real difference is that they have Caleb Williams and Addison. That's it. And here we are, a college football playoff contender. That's where we're probably going to make it. So when you flip a franchise, I guess you call them franchise, or a program over that quickly, you got to be considered generational. I mean, for real, he looks like he's ready. He looks like he's ready. The only weird thing he does is paint his name. That's it.
That's a good point. Look, I ain't say he's not generational. I just don't think he's the best QB prospect.
You said Justin Fields better though, and that's why I was like,
yeah.
I don't know.
I think you can make a case for Bryce Young. Bryce Young, his sophomore year last year went crazy, 47 touchdowns and only 7 interceptions.
So who was he playing with last year? Who's he playing with though? He's playing with a well-oiled machine in Alabama.
He's playing at Alabama, but the competition in the SEC is stiff. You playing dogs week in and week out.
That's true. I'll give you that. I mean, Alabama's still, in comparison to their counterparts in the SEC, Georgia, they look like little brothers to them. Like, it's still the competition level. You know what I mean? Like, this is my problem with college football. Like, the number 1 team is so much better than the number 2 team. It's not close. And I can't stand that about college football. Obviously, Alabama's down this year. But this year's a bit more fun. You see USC, like I said, like, they're only 1 year out from just being not good and not relevant. And here we are. He's the best player they've ever had. Caleb Williams is the best player they've ever had, and they had Reggie Bush. You know what I mean? It's crazy. It's crazy about the Heisman.
That's gonna cause some reactions. You gotta post that, because that's definitely gonna cause some reactions.
I'm sure
I wouldn't go as far to say he's better than Reggie Bush. Now you're bugging. Now you're drinking.
He's he plays a more important position than Reggie Bush did. That's all I'm gonna say.
Lower your screen. You got Casamigos over there?
I'll make that black ass drink.
Last cap with facts. The Jerry Jones situation was blown out of proportion. Cap or facts?
Yeah.
Cap.
I'm with y'all, Cap.
Whoever want to take the floor first.
You can make a lot of different arguments and say, I've heard that he was young and he was a kid, and what were you doing when you were 14 or 15? I'll tell you what I wasn't doing, involved in racist mobs at 14, 15. I knew what racism was. Obviously I'm black. I wanted nothing to do with it in any form. I was not prejudiced in any way. I knew prejudice was wrong. I knew that discriminating against anybody because of their skin color or their way of life or anything like that was wrong, right? I knew that. I knew right from wrong at that age. Now, yeah, Jerry Jones ain't me. No one else is me. But I'm pretty sure Chris wasn't involved in a racist mob either, and he was in Connecticut. I'm sure you saw plenty of them. So the point is,
no, I can't let that slide. That's wild. That's wild.
I'm messing with you, but
crazy. You said I was in the
back on track though. Back on track. But I can't give him that, man. Like, it was the biggest story in America at the time that they were going to be integrating that school. political leadership in the state, right? What was it, Arkansas, right? Was it Arkansas? Or Little Rock, right? They were very clear about getting involved and making sure that this didn't happen under any circumstances, that these black students not allowed to pass at the time. And let's say that Jerry Jones was just there as a spectator. Let's just say that. It doesn't make it any better. Like, that's the thing. I don't understand how it makes it any better. It's not a better optic either way. You know what I mean? It's actually pretty symbolic of what society is, right? White people will stand by and watch black people go through hell and say nothing and go about life like it's normal. That's what this country is, right? White people will sit there and do nothing. They'll post little black squares and go back to going to their frat parties the next day or playing beer pong, whatever the hell they were doing before. That's what it was. Exactly, Chris. Like, that's what it is. That's symbolic of what life is. So even if you want to make the case that he's young and he was just there. He was just there and he was seeing what the ruckus was about. I'm not saying I expect the guy to break it up. Like, I'm just working off this premise, by the way. I don't believe that was the case. I believe that he was very aware of what was going on. Those guys knew him, the people that were in the angry mob. He go and it's ugly. It's ugly, right? It's a bad look. Yeah, you're 14. I get it, but it's racism. We grade it on a different scale, okay? If he robbed the bank, I'd be more forgiving than this, okay? I'd feel different about it if he I'm serious. Like, so look, I just have a hard time with it, and I think that any black person who is gonna go out there like Stephen A. Smith did on a limb and tell me that and defend him, put your cape on for him in public, that's not the move, man. That's not the move. That's not the move at this time. It really ain't, because nothing else flies. Kyrie Irving did what he did. We all got on him. We all got on him with no problem. No problem. No,
yeah. And quickness.
With the quickness. And my frustration with Kyrie Irving wasn't even about him posting when he posted. It was about the fact that he did not play basketball again. That was my frustration as a Nets fan. That's the thing. It had nothing to do about what he did. It was stupid what he did. But no one had a problem calling him anti-Semitic. I have Jewish friends that were rushing to call him anti-Semitic. You know what I mean? With the quickness. So now Jerry Jones gets a pass because what? He was 14? Dude, any white person at that time, no matter what age you were, was likely racist. Like, what do we mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, anyone could have been racist. You could have been 14, 8, 7. You were taught. Racism is taught. Racism is taught. It's passed down generation to generation to generation. So it's passed down to him. It was passed down to Jerry Jones, right? We can safely make that assumption. He doesn't hire black people. You know what I mean? He was the same guy who was telling all his players to toe that line and stand up with their hands on their hearts when Colin Kaepernick's situation was going down and they wanted to protest. He was the same person who was in no rush to embrace that situation. He doesn't do anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, just because he employs black people, he gets rich off the backs of black people, right? He does a great job of wining and dining black people. Like, clearly Stephen A. Smith has been wined and dined by him, right? Letting him fly his PJs and all that stuff. And I'm sure Stephen A. gets incredible perks knowing Jerry Jones. I'm sure Jerry Jones is real nice to your face. I'm sure he is. That's not the problem. That's not what we're talking about, right? We're talking about a disease, something that's been passed down. And to belittle that because he was young at the time, it's grossly irresponsible. It's grossly irresponsible. I can't do that. Like, I can acknowledge the fact that you were young, but I can also say that at that time, most young people, as you can see at that angry mob, most of them were like 14, 15. Some of those guys were ready for war, ready to put hands on those black guys, right? Like, and they were young. What's their excuse? Like, I don't understand. Like, well, I'm not gonna play semantics or something like that. It's too serious. I'm sorry, it's too serious. He could have done at 14 years old. Kids shoplift. Kids do all types of crazy stuff, man. Like, I get it. Like, you shot things happen.
Babies at 14 years old.
Right. Things happen. Mistakes happen in life. And I'm not saying that Jerry Jones is irredeemable. I'm not even saying that. I'm not saying he's irredeemable. He's not. I don't believe that he's irredeemable. I don't believe that this is something he can't come back from. But acknowledge it for what it is. That's my problem. Just acknowledge it for what it is. Because when black people make mistakes, we are quick to bury them. Let's bury them alive. Nike jumped off that wagon fast. I ain't seen none of the sponsors who sponsors the Dallas Cowboys jumping off that bandwagon. None. They're all still there. So that's all I'm saying, right? Yeah. The power dynamic is too messed up to be giving a white guy a pass for something that egregious. That's all I'm gonna say.
I had the same. You hit the nail on the head, but I had the same frustration as you in terms of, like, Jerry Jones had a chance to rectify this. He did an interview and all he did was make excuses and basically said like he was curious and he didn't know what was going on that day and kind of just wrong place, wrong time type of thing, and caught on camera and just kind of played it off as like, yeah, I didn't know what I was doing there type of thing. But at the end of the day, like Greg said, racism is taught. And all Jerry Jones had to do, because this is something that he could come back from, all he had to do is say, hey, this is what I did at that time. This isn't me now. My perspective has changed and things like that. And people can respect that. You know what I mean? Because North Little Rock, Arkansas, is crazy time back then. And again, a lot of people were racist at that time. So it wouldn't be surprising that if that was taught to Jerry when he was growing up, right? But if he acknowledged, through experiencing life and meeting different people and saying, hey, throughout my life journey, I learned that, I don't want to be racist. I learned that that's not me. Then we wouldn't be having this conversation if he kind of put that all to bed. But he came on the radio, started making excuses, and now it's like, come on, man.
And then you got black folks making excuses for him after the fact. What are we doing? What part of the game is this? I can't get behind that. I'm sorry, Bomani, Stephen A. I can't get behind that.
Why though? Why, who's writing them checks?
Facts. You know what I'm saying?
Bob Iger.
Is that deep? Is that Bob Iger, Jerry Jones, they buddies? Is that deep? Like, it's that deep. You know what I mean? Like, that's why sometimes it's better to go to sources, places where they don't have any chips on the table. I'm not getting paid by a big conglomerate. I ain't got a paycheck getting signed by these dudes, right? Now I get paid by a big conglomerate, but they ain't gonna see this clip. but not like I'm not in the line of fire like a guy like Stephen A. Smith is or Bomani Jones is. So I think that probably skews their opinion a bit. But I can't do this. I can't watch Jerry Jones make excuses about it, make excuses for it, and then we over here, us. Why can't black people never agree on anything uniformly? Why? Everybody else does. When Jews were upset about the anti-Semitic post, man, it was all them. It was with the quickness. They were jumping on dude with so fast. Kyrie lost Nike, bro. That shoe makes a lot of money. Kids buy them Kyries, bro. Are you serious? You know how much money they gave up just to make a point? And we can't come together on anything and agree on anything. It's unbelievable, bro. It's unbelievable. I don't know what Jerry Jones would have had to done. If Jerry Jones was 14 and smiling next to a hanging body on a tree, hanging back black body on a tree, would we say the same thing? I don't understand. Like he was there for one of the most heinous acts. Like segregation was crazy, and it was all bred out of. We can't get into segregation talk because this ain't that. But and whether or not it was beneficial, we ain't gonna do that because this ain't that. But it's like you know where that it was came from a spirit of hate, and you were there. Like you know what I'm saying? Like that's crazy, and to have no remorse talking about it all these years later. That I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna sit here and make excuses for dude. I can't do that, bro.
The thing I'll point out, unless Miles want to say something, and I'll end the Jerry Jones conversation. There was a school that actually dealt with the same thing with the segregation of trying to get black students inside, and the National Guard was sent in to escort them in. So this was the second school in Little Rock that dealt with this. You trying to convince me that the second school trying to integrate black kids into the school, Jerry Jones had no idea.
What else have you been doing?
The Guard was there in Little Rock for another school, the National Guard, not the local police. The National Guard was in your city before. Your dad owned a little supermarket. You telling me, and you worked at the supermarket within that time frame. Nobody talked about it at the supermarket. You ain't hear your family talk about it. You ain't hear your parents talk about it. None of the kids at the school talked about it because they all just decided to come together and meet them at the top of the stairs, and you just was curious. What were you curious about? Nobody was talking about it on the way up the stairs. We're going to stop them Negroes from getting it. Nobody mentioned that. You just happened to be there at the front of the line.
And on top of that, he played football. And according to that article that was posted, the football coach at the time told all the players not to go to the protest that's supposed to be going on tomorrow. He said, I don't want to see none of you jokers there. Jerry Jones front and center.
What else
So,
would you be?
to tell me, you think I'm gonna believe what you're saying that you just happen to be there for curiosity? I think it's full cap. The thing is, he's protected. He's a white man in America, so he's straight. He good. Ain't nothing to worry about. Black issues don't matter. You could, if this was flipped and they found, oh, Antonio at 14 was doing something racist.
What if they found a
canceled.
picture? Hey, what if they found a picture of Braun at a Nazi protest somewhere in America when he was 13? What do you think would have happened?
It's
Did
done
they
up.
find him? Are you serious, bro? You know what would have happened there, bro? As it is, when black kids are treated like adults because it for outside, for people on the outside, it justifies you treating them as a target, right? So you treat them like they're older than they are. Tamir Rice being 12 getting shot when he's playing with a toy gun. Age didn't matter then, right? Like we can't even go down that rabbit hole, bro. All I'm gonna say is this bullshit that we got black people in the media, prominent black folk in the media, really over here caping and cooning from a man, Jerry Jones, for no good reason. It makes no sense. It's ridiculous. And I know why it's happening. You protecting your bag, but hey, man, I don't know. If this ain't bigger than your bag, I don't know whatever will be. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, you come to Bench Mob, we're going to keep it a stack. So we don't work for ESPN. So
When the sponsors are rolling, when Red Bull start giving us some bread, we see how that go.
all right. We're gonna have to be like Brandon Marshall. Them. Y'all gonna have to know what y'all signed up for. We're gonna talk about these topics. Here's what it is. You just gonna have to
They're gonna start tapping this faster than Gregory Hines.
hey, look, y'all could sponsor us and y'all just know, hey, we sponsor Bench Mob. So that means we definitely like black people. Y'all can do that. Y'all can go that route.
Oh boy.
Flipping over to basketball. Over the last 10 games, Golden State is 7-3, 3 games out of the first seed. Clay paying well again. The Lakers, AD is playing specifically well. They still subpar. They're 5-5 over their last 10 games. Who's the favorite in the West? And what do you think? Like, what is the reason for the Lakers' hesitation of why a trade has not yet been made?
Who favored in the West is a tough question to answer because it's so wide open. It's so wide open. I mean, the Warriors can pick it back up. They've gotten a road win since we last spoke, which they didn't have before then. And guys are starting to play well. I they got to figure out the Jordan Poole enigma situation. I don't know why he's playing so bad. If it's as simple as him not starting, then you may want to consider trading him. Is that serious? But it's tough to gauge the West Warriors. I mean, obviously Memphis is huge. Luka, the Mavericks, a team that looked great when we last spoke about basketball, they're 1-5. Like with Luka scoring, where Luka doesn't score over 30 points, right? So they're very Luka reliant. I don't really believe in that. I'm not a fan.
They signed Kemba.
Right, like that'll solve a problem, right? But I think it's the Suns, it's the Grizzlies. I think they're a very, very good basketball team. Very, very good basketball team. They can really make a good run and potentially get to a finals. If Desmond Bain gets back healthy, which I'm sure he will in time. So the Grizzlies and Suns are probably the two teams I lock into the most. I'm not a believer in Denver. I'm not a believer in them. I think Jokic is a defensive liability. And if they ran into the Lakers and the Lakers actually had their act together and they just run into a dominant big, right, like an Anthony Davis, the way he's playing, it could be real dark for him as well. But it has nothing to do with his offensive ability. It's just more so about the defensive liability that he can be. I think Bruce Brown's been great for them, but and that's a nice add, but I'm not much of a believer. So I think those two teams, the Suns and Grizzlies right now, if you ask me right now, Suns and Grizzlies are my two contenders. I think that's where I would go with that at the moment. I don't know what Miles thinks, but it's kind of how I feel about that at the moment.
I mean, yeah, I like the Suns so far, but I also like Golden State. I think at some point they're gonna figure it out. This is a team that's been around the block. I feel like they've just been kind of coasting a little bit, just because it's like this is. I guess some teams feel like these November games, October games don't mean as much. Like they can turn it on when they want to, which I know they can. I mean, they got Steph, Draymond, they got guys who know how to play, know how to win, and they did it last year. They got it done last year. So my belief is I think Golden State, when it's all said and done, they'll be top 2 seed, maybe even top 1 seed. So I think they'll just go on a run, and you could see Steph possibly winning another MVP this year if things, go that way.
Hey, 3 games out of first right now. Steph looks great. He's looked great all season, and he's actually, what was it, last game? He didn't get any points the first quarter. They're still in there with like 32, and that was in mind of trying to get Clay going, trying to get Clay flowing, and he might have found his thing. He came out and said, hey, I was on social media too much. I was reading the comments. He got rid of his social media, so we might see a scary Clay for the rest of the season. He turned off the Instagram and the Twitter. Super toxic place to be.
You asked about the Lakers and why they're hesitant to make a trade too, right? That was the second half of the question. I think there's a couple of factors. I think first off, Anthony Davis is playing out of his mind. And it kind of optimizes what that group can do. Lonnie Walker's playing good basketball too. I've been talking trash about him, God knows, on this podcast since the season started. He's been playing really well. He's embraced the role. He's done a good job. And the big thing about that team that's going unspoken about is Austin Reeves. His development. He's actually become a heck of a basketball player. Honestly, I like him a lot on ball. He's done a great job for them, facilitating, knocking down shots at a higher clip too. He's a hooper, man. He's a hooper. He's legit. And I think, what they're doing is they're getting a gauge on what the value of each individual player on that team is before they make a big move or they make a move at all. I'm sure there's something in the cards they wouldn't have bought. Bron wouldn't have came back. I really don't believe he would have come back. Certainly not for a 2-year deal anyways, if he didn't think that they would have done everything it took, right, to make this happen and get the players around him that he needs. So I think they're just kind of getting engaged on what they can trade for who. I think Russ is still very much on the table. I think Russ does get moved because he's the best. He's one of the best assets. He's a 6th man of the year kind of caliber player right now. So I think those are some big things, and that's why you're seeing them take their time. In addition to that, letting guys like AD find their rhythm and seeing what the team can even max out at this time is kind of a good idea. You wait to the quarter mark of the season and December, and then you really start to get aggressive with the conversations about trades and who you're going to go after and where you think your team needs to be headed. So I think that's kind of what we're looking at right now, to be honest. I think that's what this team's going to end up doing. And I think they'll make a move eventually. It's just a matter of being a little patient if you're a Lakers fan.
I think they're going to make 2 moves. They'll probably get rid of Russ. And I was reading, they're trying to probably get rid of Pat Bev, but you got to wait till December 15th when he's able to be traded. So Pat Bev, Russ Westbrook, both probably will be traded. And Pat Bev has looked abysmal this year. He's looked abysmal, honestly, over the last couple of years after he said to Steph that the next 5 years was his. It has not been his at all. We're going to close out the show. Before we even go that, Kawhi Leonard, absolute robbery. 5 games out of 21 games. 5 games. Played 5 games out of possible 21 games that he could have played this year. Absolute robbery.
Yeah.
One player that has been balling out that the Lakers actually had at one point, Kyle Kuzma. Over the last 5 games, he's averaging around 26 points, 8.5 rebounds, and around 6 assists. He's actually averaging more rebounds than Kristaps Porzingis. But that's a whole nother thing. Who would you rather, Kyle Kuzma, Andrew Wiggins?
Andrew Wiggins.
I don't think that's that easy, bro. He's that too quick. I think if Kyle Kuzma was on the Warriors, he'd look just as good. I'm being honest. Give me Kyle Kuzma, man. Give me Kyle Kuzma.
Jeremy Grant.
Jeremy Grant's really good. I got to see that up front and personal on Friday night. That got Kahoot, man. Yeah, sorry, Miles.
Perfect transition for the last one. Kyle Kuzma or Julius Randle?
Kyle Kuzma.
Kyle Kuzma.
Give me Kyle.
I got to see that up close and personal too. Randle, Hey man, I hate the way he plays basketball so much. He is so unenjoyable to watch.
Give me Kyle
Honestly.
Kuzma. Give me Kyle Lowry. Give me Kyle Pitts. I'll take all them Kyles.
He's taking Kyle Lowry and his BBL over Randall.
Yo, it's crazy. You know he's second in minutes per played this season.
Lowry
second in minutes played and is not producing.
I'm not surprised by that. That's
He's
bad.
he's getting the minutes. He's
Yeah.
not producing. The second most minutes in the NBA belongs to Kyle Lowry.
They've been so injured over there. That's why.
So I guess that's a good thing. Y'all didn't get Kyle Lowry.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Lakers. Yeah, they dodged a good bullet there, and Russell with the bad turnover. It worked out though.
Yo, you already know the vibes. If you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. Bench Mob Ent, we out. Peace. General Soul Chicken.